My mom found out after she gave birth to me.
Oh my God.
Which is 4 years after their marriage.
Yeah.
Like she said, on the day of my birth, it's my birthday, right? It was my dad's birthday too. I was born on my dad's birthday.
Oh shit.
And he goes, it's also my brother's birthday. You know? She's like, huh? She didn't know. And then he was like, I have this twin brother. He's in Korea. I've never met him.
Korean people do not know time and place very well at all. You know how
time and place.
let me tell you something about in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. I got one of my closest friends here, Ed Bart. Cheers once again.
Cheers.
It's almost going to be a new year. And it's dope doing podcasts with friends because there's so much history between us. We get to talk about stuff that, number one, like I was just saying this before, that I know a lot of these stories seems far-fetched, but he's been around for a good chunk of
Yeah. Like I've seen some of these stories, and when he tells the stories, they're true. Like even when he's telling stories about me, like the time after the motel pool shoot and I couldn't eat one bite. I was listening to that. Yeah, that happened.
That shit was funny. So, you know, so here's a funny backstory to that. So Ed does video, right? And our buddy Dan does it too. And we talked about this before, how we met. We're not going to go into that. So at this time, I just didn't have much shit to do. So there was this music video for this dude named Travis Garland, right? At the time, he was a signed artist to my buddies, The Stereotypes, right? They were going to shoot this music video out in Lancaster. And so lo and behold, the female star to this is none other than, at the time, not very well known, Julia Kelly.
Right.
So if you guys know who Julia Kelly is, she's like the originator of the fat ass pictures. So every girl that has like a fat ass pic, you know, give respect to Julia Kelly because she was the one that put her asshole out there for you guys to follow. The butthole.
Thank you.
Thank you. The butthole blueprint is what I call it. So we had a very another great guy he was going to be the DP. Director of photography was Brian, right?
Yeah.
So Brian was hired on to be the director of photography for this. Really dope music video. It turned out really great, actually.
It's really awesome.
It was
without
really
him lip syncing one word to the song. There's no lip syncing to it at all.
And there's so many okay, let's just start with this, right? So Julia Kelly was actually brought onto the set. She didn't know who I was. She was a nobody at this time, right? And at this point, like, I'm pretty well known. But I don't really have much of an ego to myself. So I just knew that Don, he was shooting photos and I wanted to shoot photos too. So I was like, hey, let me just help out on set. I'll shoot photos. I still have those photos to this day. And those photos, by the way, are fucking fire. Yeah. They were dope as fuck. I still have them. And this is when I was really into photos. Like I enjoyed doing it a lot. So I was like, yeah, I'll just do it for free. I wasn't even thinking about doing it free. It was just fun. So Julia Kelly at the time, not knowing who I am or just people who anybody was on set, she kind of had this thing of like wanting to tell people what to do and boss them around, which I fucking hated, right? And she literally had she was like that girl on set that would tell everybody to follow her on Instagram. She goes, oh, do you have Instagram? Can you follow me? Can you follow me? And she was trying to get to like 10,000 followers. So she goes, I only need 2 more to get to 10,000. Can somebody follow me? Which I already found to be a deplorable, just annoying habit. Or
maybe this was like the early days of Instagram too, right?
Very early.
Few years in.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about Instagram. I just knew that I had a following on YouTube and this is what I was doing.
And so we weren't used to this. You're telling me to what?
Yeah, you're telling me to follow you? What's wrong with you? You know? So before I even get into that, so she comes in, she gets hired for this project to you know, do this whole thing with Travis. So there's this pool scene that's very important because the song is called Motel Pool.
Yeah.
So she knew about this ahead of time. She knew what was going on, right? And she gets there and she looks at the pool. She goes, it's too cold. I'm not going in. We've been there for fucking 18 hours?
So, yeah. Holy
shooting.
Shit.
Such a long time. And it got to this point where she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, excuse me? This whole thing was for you. Like the money is already spent. We're here. Right? So she gets into the pool. We're ready to shoot. Her scene, by the way, will take at max 10 seconds. That's all we asked for.
Yeah.
10 seconds. Can you do this? And she said, yeah, she agreed. And she goes, water's too cold. I looked at her. I remember I walked up to her because I was pissed at this point. I was like, you're an actress. Act like one. Yeah. I was irritated for you. I was irritated for Dan because she was causing such a scene over something that she agreed to. And it was based on her.
And this shoot at this point was probably like at 5 a.m.
Yes.
Right? Because we also needed to shoot a sunrise. Mm-hmm. So we scheduled it to start the shoot at like 11 p.m.
Exactly.
At this point, like this is the money shot. the title of the song.
Motel Pool.
Well, to make it up to you, we had to do makeup shots. And we had to go to another pool to shoot, and it was also freezing cold. So
oh my God.
That's how we finished all those pickup shots.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It wasn't all there, and we had to make her do it again. And she did it. Credit to her, at least she did it again.
Yeah, she did
twice.
a great job. Yeah. And then the funny thing was, like, and I'm pretty sure she's a really sweet person. Now, I follow her or whatever, whatnot. And I'm not saying she's a bad person, right? And there was another Viner at the time, not a Viner at the time, Leanne V.
Yes.
They were best friends. I'm not sure if they're still best friends now, but I don't know their personal relationship. But she was telling me, like, no, she's a really sweet girl. Like, she's just, she's young. She just doesn't know what she's doing. And I'm like, all right, cool. So we gave her a pass. But once again, not knowing, she kind of like treated people who were helped very poorly, which I disliked. So I remember this because when we were wrapped up and we were going to do the desert scene where Travis is following her through the scene, she goes, hey, can you get my bags for me? She looked at me. She goes, those are my bags. Can you get them for me? And I looked at her and I was like, I remember exactly what I said. I was like, that's funny. Your arm's broken or something? And she was like, oh, what? I was like, I'm not the help. Right? And I walked away. And so this is the funniest part about it. I don't give a fuck. I'll tell the story. So, Travis, he's like flirting with her. She's very hot. She's a very beautiful woman, right? He's flirting with her, whatever, whatnot. They're doing their thing. They have a make out scene and whatever. Yeah. And there's a part where we have to pack up and leave, and there's only a couple of cars that have seats. My car and Travis's car, right? So we're all about to leave, and then you see Travis off in the distance, thirsty as fuck. Julio! Yeah.
I remember this.
You remember this, right? Julio! Yeah, Julio! Come ride with me! You coming? And then she looks at me, she goes, can I get in your car? I go, nope.
And that's true, guys.
Yeah.
You guys keep accusing him of these fake. I was there. This is true.
Yeah, these are true stories. Yeah. And I go, nope. And I just get in my car and I just drive the fuck off. I was like, the only option you have is Travis. Good fucking luck, dude.
Yeah. And that's where it goes off, where we all took Adderall because we didn't sleep.
So check this out. So back in the day, me, Ed, and Dan used to pull all-nighters 24/7.
All the time.
We just couldn't sleep. We're insomniacs. We're young.
Hustle culture, quote unquote. Yeah.
Well, we're still young now, but we just didn't give a fuck. We used to play Smash Brothers. We used to drink. We used to just party. This is what we did. But this was a pretty taxing shoot, right? Very limited budget, next to nothing.
Yeah.
And it was a fun project that we all got to do. Problem with that is when you have a low budget, means you have to get a lot of shots within about 2 to 3 days. Yeah. And so within those 2 days, we didn't sleep at all. 48 hours, no fucking sleep in the middle of a desert. There are so many weird splotches that I don't remember, but Dan told me, I don't even remember this part. I took like 6 Red Bulls to the point where he said, like, dude, you were just doing stand-up at a certain point.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
You don't remember?
I don't remember that.
I was fucking dying. That's what I remember. The silver lining about that shoot was this like little moment where Don went to go get food and we're just sitting around waiting. And you were just improvising and going off, and you put on this show in the motel room. And we were cracking up, dying. We were just like, yo, why aren't you doing stand-up more often, dude? You were like, you're killing it in that room of like, what, 8 people?
Yeah.
Well,
see, I don't remember doing that part. I was just so delirious. But, I did stand-up since I was 16. So that skill is always going to be there.
Yeah.
But Dan was like, you were making people die laughing.
You were.
I was like, I wish you recorded that because I don't remember any of those jokes.
No. You know what I remember? I pulled out my phone and you stopped.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why I was like, yo, you're killing it, man.
Yeah. Like, at that time too was when I kind of stopped doing stand-up as much. But, I still have that want to still do it every now and then, and I always write stand-up sets till this day. Yeah. So that ability, once you do it when you're 16, like, and you do it religiously, that ability is still, it's not going to be as good as before, but it's still always going to be there. Right.
Yeah, like video is my shit. I started when I was like 15, 16.
And it's always there.
When I quit and I was just doing grocery, I'll make little skits here and there by myself, and part of it being like part of who you are. I couldn't run away from it either, as much as I was like, okay, I'm not a video guy anymore. Mm-hmm. I am doing this now. Yeah. Hey, man, like everybody needs advertisement. Everybody needs propaganda. Everybody needs content. It's fun. So.
And anytime Ed and I did a project together, it was always because it was fun. It wasn't really work. You know, we always did dumb, stupid shit.
I just remember just on set is one of the most fun times you get to have because you're fucking around.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of those things about even doing back before I was working with you, I was doing Justin's.
Oh yeah, just all those funny sketches.
And it was just about how dumb can we be every week? How absolutely stupid can we make this? And you know what? People kept loving it.
Yeah.
And it was fun that way because it was a freedom.
Yeah,
right?
you were creating for yourself first anyway, so it didn't matter if people. I mean, of course, it hurt if people didn't like it, but at least the motive was right there. So you were happy with the result and the work that you did.
Yeah,
you know. And so when we were doing this Lancaster music, we were all delirious, and obviously, so Ed at this time, me and Ed are both fat as fuck, right? So this is like the funniest shit. So in Lancaster, there's this random southern restaurant, right? That does Louisiana food, right? So like etouffee, gumbo, you know, fried catfish, whatever. By the way, probably some of the best like New Orleans like southern food that I've ever had,
right?
And it's out in Lancaster, right? and I've been to like, you know,
we went to New Orleans,
yeah.
You and I together.
Yeah, you and I, we did together. We just ate a bunch of fucking food, but he hates seafood, so he suffered.
Oh, that's
right.
That's another.
So
story.
there was this one moment, and you know what? When you look back at it, the moment is funny, but it wasn't as funny as it was supposed to be because we were hopped up on Adderall, haven't slept in 48 hours. So there's this moment where we're all fucking eating, and he did the oddest thing. This fool finishes all of his food, right? And there was this one chicken bone with like a little flesh left. He goes, and fucking Ed looks at us and he goes, bro, I can't have another bite. And he shoves his bowl to us where that's completely empty. And then I remember.
Wait, okay.
And then Dad goes, Ed, what the fuck? There's no food in this bowl.
No, okay. My previous nickname from Dan was Technical Ed. Okay, because I'd always go technically.
Yeah.
Technically, or actually. Right?
I hate that. That's my dad used to say that shit.
Yeah. And that was me. That was me being Technical Ed. I was like, look, there is literally one bite on there, on that bone, literally, and I cannot eat it anymore. So I'm going, this is what I mean. Why are you guys laughing at me? It's like, what's wrong with you guys?
But because this one couldn't understand how fucking funny it was, it made us laugh even harder. So I
was getting angry. I was like, yo, what? Why are you laughing at me? There is one piece of... I can't eat another bite. What?
He was getting angry, so it made us laugh even harder. And so, till this day, that is the hardest I've ever laughed in my life. And it is literally the hardest I've ever laughed because of the delirium.
Hey, growing pains, right?
I remember he was so upset. I was like, Ed, why don't you understand why this is so fucking funny? Because it doesn't help that he was so fat. You know what I mean? So it just made it even funnier. I just remember my jaw was sore the next day. But check this out. So this is the first time I ever did Adderall. Dan was an Adderall abuser because he fucking would never stop working and he would edit all night. Now, this is before he built his company. He had other people editing under him. He did everything himself, and it was you and Dan.
Yeah.
So I didn't know exactly what Adderall did, right? I didn't know that it made you hyper-focused.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happened was you guys were ahead of me and I was following you guys, right? I skipped the exit by like 6 exits.
You were just looking at the lines?
I was just zoned in looking at the lines and everybody was sleeping. And I just remember driving and I went like 10 miles past K-Town.
Yeah.
I just kept driving. And next thing you know, I forgot who woke up. They're like, how far are we? I was like, oh shit. I was like all
We're
the
in
way.
Santa Monica.
So I had to stop and turn around. And Adderall, and after that, I was like, I'm never taking Adderall again. Like,
shit.
I was too hyper focused. But
that's why I think I was a little delirious too. Like, so I went to a psychiatrist when I turned 30, right? Because I was like, I can't focus. I always suspected I had like ADD of some kind. And I got diagnosed with it. Actually, it was pretty severe.
yeah.
They prescribed me first with like 15 milligrams of like Adderall, and then it didn't work for me. Right?
Yeah, still like doing your shit.
Yeah, and so bumped it to 20, And then they changed the brand to Vyvanse. It was pretty much the same thing.
Hello, my friends. Have you heard of BetterHelp? Listen, it's time for you to take care of your mental health. I am a huge advocate of mental health, and people, you go to the doctor to heal your body, so you need BetterHelp to heal your mind. Therapy was not something that was talked a lot in my household, so getting the mental health that I need, especially because it wasn't emphasized when I was younger, was something that I didn't know that was necessary in my life, and I have been so much better for it. Listen, BetterHelp is more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. I want you to live a happier life today, so try BetterHelp and give it a go, because you deserve the best version of you every day. Visit betterhelp.com/genius. That's better, H-E-L-P, and join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. Special offer for Genius Brain listeners: get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/genius. That's betterhelp.com/genius to get 10% off your first order. That's betterhelp.com/genius.
It's an amphetamine.
Yeah.
And then they bumped it up to 30. And I was like, I cannot focus on anything. I told him, I just feel high, you know? And it, like, because I told him, I was like, look, I'd done Molly before. When this is, it's like a slight version of this. So this crazy fucking doctor said, now that I'm thinking about it now, he said, so you open up the capsule and put it in a cup of water, and then you let it dissolve, so it's no longer time released. And it was 50 milligrams of Vyvanse, of an amphetamine. And he's like, let it all dissolve, and then take the shot and see how it does for you. And bro, between cocaine and ecstasy, Vyvanse, it was the same shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like it feels the same. I was just high. I was at work, and
how did you feel? It's like I got nothing done.
Yeah, got nothing done too at the same time. So I reported back to the shrink. I was like, "Yo, 50 milligrams doesn't. I still can't focus." And then that's when he was like talking about the spectrum for the first time for me.
Yeah.
But he didn't like diagnose me or whatever with that. I just knew that I have a very high level of like ADHD. So between Adderall, cocaine, Molly, and ecstasy, they're kind of the same.
Yeah.
Like the way I feel.
Very similar feelings.
Yeah.
I definitely have a form of ADHD, and the way I balance it out is hyperactivity. I have to do...
You work out.
I work out, bike. I have to do excessive shit. If I don't do that, I'm fucked. Like, I'm fucked. I can't sit still. I start like shadow boxing in my living room. I start being antsy. That's why I got that sit stand desk. So when I edit, I stand now. Because if I sit, I lose my mind. Just having the ability to move your legs and wiggle around a little bit helps me.
Right.
Than just, which, you know, I wish I knew about this when I was younger, because I would have done way better in school.
I say the same thing every time.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm like with a therapist or shrink. I wish I knew this when I was like in elementary.
Like if I see my kid struggling and I see the same stuff that he has, he or she has the same issues that I have, I'm like, you gonna get a sit stand desk? We're gonna put you in jujitsu, karate, martial arts, whatever.
Do you recall a time when you were a kid where you were like, I wish there was like something for that, like you recognized that was like kind of an ADHD?
No, I just thought I was dumb. Yeah. I just thought I was an idiot, you know? I'm like, why the fuck are these people so much smarter than me?
No,
you know?
No, I believe that about myself too.
Yeah.
Because my parents treated me that way.
Yeah.
They don't know. Our parents don't believe in ADHD. No Korean adult believes in ADD or ADHD.
Yeah.
My mom to this day does not believe in it.
So you know what that is?
No, you're
just
just,
Satania.
Yeah. You're just a lazy.
Yeah, it's a lazy, it's a Satan. It's a devil.
Yeah. It was just like, if something's wrong. Like, that's another thing. I grew up thinking, something's wrong with you. Something's wrong. 왜 그래?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you like this? Why are you like this?
Now I know too, it's just, you know, there's this, people tend to, or maybe our parents, like an older generation, they have this set formula that they think is going to work for everybody.
Yes.
And then you find out when you're older, that's never the case.
Right.
But for them, I think they just want to believe that so hard. And the work that it takes to not believe that and to research and figure stuff out is way more difficult than just pressing this one belief onto your kid that something's wrong with you. You can do what these other people do, rather than saying, oh, there's something different about this kid. Let's figure out what works best for him.
Right.
You know,
like to say all humans are the same is
preposterous.
Way too simplified.
Yeah.
Right. So what I was explaining, the whole point of this story was that when I turned 30, I was like 250 pounds. I was fat as fuck. You know?
Yeah.
And I had a doctor check up all this shit, and I was just whack. I'm gonna die by the time I was 40. Something.
Yeah.
And so the antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications didn't work, which is why where I started losing the weight. So I was like, maybe I'm fucked up because I'm fat.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's do that. And I dealt with the weight loss, which is where I'm here now. And sadly, Adderall still doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a definite thing where now it has to be more pragmatic, practical, behavioral things that I have to do to make this work. Like you said, like being active and standing desks and constantly finding yourself a rhythm to get through this shit.
Yeah.
Or else it's chaos. Things are
it's
so
hard to. That's why I'm surprised I even have the minimal amount of success I have now, because I'm a trash bag. That's why when I look at when other people, when they're unsuccessful, I'm like, you don't even have the shit I have. What's wrong with you?
Right.
Like it's hard. Like it's difficult. Like having to deal. Like people, I actually edit all these podcasts myself. And let me tell you something. When you have fucking ADHD, it is difficult.
Oh well, shout out to you. I thought Ray did it.
No, I did this shit.
Well, David.
Yeah.
When you're watching this back.
And the hard part is that I had the best experience doing the podcast, but I can't listen to it back because I've already experienced it.
Right.
So, but as I'm doing this, I have to make mental notes, because there are certain guests that sometimes they say things that I don't think will make them look that great,
right,
because they think that we're having a regular conversation, and I have to delete it out because it's not a clear representation of who they are as a person,
right,
and it's out of context.
It's like, don't you hate when Chinese people?
I was like, hey, look at what they say, delete. And it's not anything too crazy, but it's more like I know the cultural milieu, and I understand how people will perceive this stuff, even though I know what they're saying, but because there's no context, it makes them sound bad. And then that's where I have to delete certain things,
right?
Because I don't want to have to go through comments and be like, listen, this is why you're fucking dumb. This is what they meant, So I have to do that. So I'm always taking like mental notes, but usually people are pretty good with it, and I always give people a heads up. I don't really cut things out too much, so just be smart about your shit,
right?
Because I want it to be a natural conversation. But we were talking about parenting. Ed has it's such a weird story. Like I always say this with him. It's like, how do we even begin? Because his dad's story is, I want to make it into a film, to be honest with you. Like I really do, because it's so unique, right? Like in the previous podcast, we talked about him finding out his dad's involvement in KK, which is Korean Killers, which is one of the original OG Korean gangs out in Los Angeles. And if you talk about Korean gangs and a lot of these Asian gangs, the reason why a lot of these gangs started up is because people were bullied,
right?
People were punked, and it's like, yo, there's strength in numbers, and this is how a lot of gangs actually start up,
right?
Where they got sick of being pushed around, being punked, and so they had to develop this aggro type of personality and this aggressive group to make sure that nobody fucked with them again. And this is like the onslaught of like how KK started a lot of these Asian gangs,
Yeah. I I had to do a lot of things. So like when you first met my dad, he looked like a frail, probably like 80-year-old man, right? So you thought it was my Harabaji, right?
When we went to go pick up his dad at the airport, and I saw his father, and this is actually not too long before he passed away, I thought it was your grandpa. I was like, oh, you're picking up your grandpa from the airport.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's good that your grandpa's going to see your grandma, because I met your grandma already before. And you're like, that's my dad. Yeah. I was like, oh, shit. Shocked.
Yeah. Well, at that time, he was 52 years old.
That's fucking insane, dude.
He
did not look 52. Younger than my dad.
Because he had a very wild life. A very, very wild life growing up. And there was a time where I get a lot of the stories, like before I talked about how my mom always gave me the gang talk. Don't join a gang. Don't join a gang. Meanwhile, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to join any gang around here.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Why are you giving me that talk?
Mm-hmm.
And what I was realizing is as I got older, I learned more stories about my dad. And about a month before he passed, I had some jajangmyeon with him. And then I just asked him, I was like, what's your story?
Yeah.
Tell me the full story. What's going on? What's up? Pretty much the best that I can piece together is that my dad was born a twin, right? I don't know if you noticed this. Have you ever met someone your dad's age that's a twin?
Mm-mm.
Why is it that our parents' generation and our grandparents, there are no twins?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know anybody who's a twin that's in the old generation.
It's superstition. They get rid of them.
Oh, really?
It's an old shamanistic kind of thing, with twins and shit. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's something fucked up where they split him or whatever.
Yeah. It's like bad luck.
Yeah. So I don't know the whole story, but it is just you don't have twins. That's why I've never seen somebody my parents say that's a twin. You too, right?
Yeah,
just asking you.
I don't know a single one.
So the thing is, my biological grandfather's older brother, his wife, my harmony, is barren. She doesn't have kids. And so he had twins. So he gave, pretty much my dad for adoption to his older brother, which is my harabaji. And he was a military man. He was in Vietnam as a sergeant. Because when America went to Vietnam, they're like, hey, remember how we helped you in Korean War?
Yeah.
We need your help right now. So they sent a bunch of Korean soldiers to Vietnam.
Yeah.
So that's where my harabaji was. And basically this is the story. My mom said when he was 13, they sat him down. They're like, you're adopted. You have a twin brother. We're going to America. He never met him.
Wow.
And they bounced and they came to LA. They came to what wasn't Koreatown then. This is what 1976.
They just drop a bomb on him. It's like, by the way, you have a twin. You're never going to see him. And we're going to America.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man?
And now he's in this vicinity of what is to be Koreatown in LA, and he's going to Virgil High School. And this is what I asked about his life coming to America when we were eating jjajangmyeon. And he was like, I was actually 16 years old, not 13. They put me in the 7th grade, because he didn't speak English. So he's the oldest dude in the 7th grade class.
What the fuck?
And then
he was a grown-ass adult.
Yeah. And he just said he just fucked everyone. He just beat everybody up. All these little kids, he just said he just beat everyone up because he didn't give a fuck. He was angry. He was just like, they treat him like trash for being Korean and all that shit. And remember how I told you when I acted up at my school, the teachers didn't do anything?
Yeah.
I think he had the same story because he stayed there. Like
he's getting bullied. You know, what's he going to do?
So he said he was in high school and he's already the biggest guy in school, because he's way too old to be in high school.
Yeah.
But then more Korean immigrants started coming, he told me. And they understood him, but they also came from a Korean high school. Remember Chingu?
Yeah.
As captain. So my dad saw himself as captain, the first one at Virgil, right? So this other Korean kid comes in and he said he actually challenged him to fight, even though they're the only 2 Koreans.
Oh my God.
How Korean is that shit?
That's so funny. He just comes first day. He goes, let's do this. It's like, what do you, I just got here.
So my dad, he said at the rallies and assemblies, he sat on the top row and he wouldn't allow anyone to sit on the top row with him. And if they came to sit with him, he'd beat them up. And so he would sit there by himself on the top row during assemblies and prep rallies, right? And this other Korean kid comes in and he said he sat up there with him. And so he beat him up.
Oh my, no explanation.
And no explanation. And then from then on, and then they became best friends. And then only them 2 sat on the top row.
That's so fucking funny, dude. Your dad is a volatile human being, dude.
Yeah, and so he started telling me like on Vermont and Olympic, where it's a Pollo Loco and the gas station.
Exactly
all
what that
stuff.
is.
And he was saying those were different plazas, different things, different gas station. And he said the Korean kids in high school, that's where they meet up. That's where they all gather. Yeah. And then they'll do their fight club. They'll smoke cigarettes. They'll fuck around. They'll go look for the triads. They'll go to little Tokyo,
Oh my God.
And pretty much that was the start. This is like, he said this is like late 70s kind of thing, early 70s.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I didn't know my dad was up to any of this shit.
Yeah.
My mom would never tell me this.
She would just tell you not to join gangs.
Yeah. Like from my perspective, my whole life, I just grew up like living my life. And then all of a sudden, my dad, like, I'm going to Korea for the first time, and I'm 15 years old. And I'm at the airport, and this is before 9/11, so we're saying bye, at the terminal, and I get on a plane, fall asleep, get out. I'm in Seoul, Incheon, and my dad is there on the other side.
Wow.
In Korea.
This podcast is brought to you by Raycon, my friends. Are you listening to music or podcast with wired earbuds? Well, my friends, you might as well just go back in time and stay there since you like to use outdated things. Wireless earbuds are the best, and Raycon wireless earbuds are right there among the best, my friends. With seamless Bluetooth pairing and a comfortable noise isolating fit, you can start listening right out of the box and keep listening for hours. Audio quality is amazing and comparable to what you get from other premium brands, except Raycon start at half the price. And I know people love good deals out there and they love good quality. Well, Raycon has both that. And I've been listening to Raycon earbuds for quite a while when I go on walks, specifically when I'm biking, because they're super lightweight and I love the noise isolating fit. So Raycon's being generous for the holidays. So on top of their everyday great prices, they're offering my listeners 15% off right now. Go to buyraycon.com/brain today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/brain. That's buyraycon.com/brain.
My dad's twin brother.
Oh,
came
shit.
to pick me up. I never met this guy, barely heard about this guy. And he was shocked to see me because me and my dad are like
you look like twins.
twins.
Yeah,
Like,
your
we're
dad
composite.
Like literally a carbon copy of your dad.
Yeah. So, like,
Who the fuck does Ben look like, dude? I don't know who the fuck he looks like.
he's a hybrid between us.
Yeah.
But like, so in my perspective, I'm getting all this information later in my life because they kept all this stuff a secret, like long lost twin brother, adopted, cake, like,
Yeah.
all this shit. And it made me understand why my dad was the way he was.
Yeah. You had a fucked up life.
Yeah, very, damn, I'm sorry.
That's not good.
It's very, I can see where he felt a lot of like abandonment, obviously, because as a twin, or not only that, like where his brother has a family and all that stuff, and all he ever knew was just my 할아버지 할머니. He didn't know any cousins, he didn't know any siblings. It was just him.
Who did he leave to the States with?
Yeah, just my 할머니 할아버지.
So just his mom. So, okay. So his dad was around though.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know my 할아버지 was scary too.
Oh, okay.
One thing about my 할아버지 was how I remember that he was scary, he was militaristic, and like even the way he made my dad cower was scary.
Yeah.
But he was full of love. He loved me like a whole lot. And I don't understand why, but he did, and that was the first, like, even so, it's the first time I saw my dad cry was when my 할아버지 died.
Oh.
Never seen that, but check this out, this context. We're at the funeral, right? And my 할아버지, and my dad is crying I've never seen my dad cry ever.
Yeah.
And I have ADHD, so my leg is shaking like crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell you what, I'm like only 5 or 6 years old. Then my dad, slaps me in my leg, fucking hard, and squeezes it. And he's just like, come on in.
Yeah.
And I started crying.
Yeah.
And everyone thought I was crying for my 할아버지, but I was in pain.
Because your dad just fucking tiger clawed your leg.
My dad thought I was being disrespectful to my 할아버지 by twitching my leg. So then when I say my dad is a gangster, like, he takes no shit.
Yeah.
I'm a 6-year-old kid and this is what he does,
Yeah.
So like, I grew up under this household where it was like,
You do something wrong, I'll fuck you up.
which is why when like the shit that happened to me at my store, people are like, dude, why do you get yourself in that situation? Like, don't you get scared? Like, my dad is scary.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
these guys are all right.
There were a lot of situations like that. So I remember, dude, this is one very interesting moment where when I was in 7th and 8th grade, there was this kid he held this grudge for a long time, and I've told this a million times here, but it's this kid who I stabbed in like 3rd grade, and then 7th and 8th grade, we went to the same junior high. Well, lo and behold, 3-4 years, he still held that grudge. He decides to jump me at the bus stop, right? And I remember I got jumped by him and a couple of his homies, and you have to realize that when you're in 7th and 8th grade and a 7th and 8th grade kid hits you and you just got your ass beat by your parents with like a metal bat and a lead pipe, you guys beating you with a belt and kicking you to the floor, getting hit by a kid didn't really hurt much.
Right.
And so I remember this kid socked me in the face, and I got socked, and I looked at him and it didn't do anything. And I remember as a 13-year-old, I just had this moment of, that didn't hurt, and I just chased after him, and this fool just ran into the bus stop and went into the bus so he couldn't get his ass beat. But there's these things where you get your ass beat so hard by your parents, you kind of start to wonder, like, what am I scared of?
Yeah, this didn't hurt at all.
Yeah.
It's okay. I think that's part of that. I don't know if it's a poverty thing.
Yeah. Poor people shit.
This is how poor people kind of deal with their shit, right? Yeah, like when I said previously, when I would get in a fight and I'd lose, my dad would flip his shit. He was so disgusted at me that I would lose a fight.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, clean me up. None of that shit. No coaching. Just.
He goes, well, where do you sit on the bleachers?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you sit on the top? Who's your best friend?
Yeah, he probably thinks I'm on the bottom rung. It was like that. My dad
disappointed
really, looked me up and down that way a lot of times. And which is why, for me, back on the school ground, I was like, I better do something.
Yeah.
Or else, and that's where I got fucked up, where that's pride. That's proud moment for my dad. He was so proud of me okay, so like the month before he died, me and my brother at Tiggs, of course, Tiggs.
Yeah.
After my friend Joe's wedding, and we went to Tiggs, and we're out just smoking cigarettes, chilling outside, and there's this guy your size, pretty much, but he's like straight up fob, and he's drunk. It's his birthday, and he's drunk. So me and my brother were just having our conversation, and all of a sudden I'm looking at my brother and I see this giant head grab his collar, right? And he's like, "Yeah, Shiba Sheki." And I see my brother look at him like, what the fuck? Because this guy's a huge guy. Yeah, he's tall.
He's drunk as fuck.
Yeah, he's drunk as fuck. And so I jumped on his back. I jumped on him and I put a rear naked. And then I just yanked my ass back, like just pulled back as hard as I could. And then all three of us just fell over. And all of a sudden it was like 7 bumps versus me and my brother.
Yeah.
And long story, it was a scuffle. My brother fucked that giant dude up.
Yeah.
Like he put him out. Like, yeah, he put him out. Size difference was pretty amazing. But regardless of that, the next day, like, we're having lunch with my parents, and I told that story to my parents. I was like, because my brother's hand's all bloody and scraped up. My parents like, what's happened? And as I'm telling this exact story to my dad, his smile is just so huge. I've never seen him so proud of us in our life. But that was the last moment I had with my dad.
That's hilarious.
But it just really explains like who he was.
And what he sees value in.
What he sees value in, right?
Yeah.
And which is why I'm not always afraid to get in some shit despite my size.
Yeah.
Because of the pressure I was under, because my dad, meanwhile, while trying to be a suburbanite now, was still raising me under some like gangpe shit.
That's hilarious, dude. It's like, hey, Dad, remember when I graduated college with a degree? Who the fuck cares? Yeah. Remember that one time you beat the shit out of that giant Korean dude at the bar? It's like,
exactly.
Oh my God, Appa, please.
My parents didn't come to my graduation.
That's fucking
like they don't like coming to my recitals for trumpet or any of my shit, whatever. It was like that, and there was just like there are things, especially accomplishments, where he doesn't give a shit about. But if he cares about something that I did that he cares about, then that's versus like.
Was your dad like? Was he very omnipresent in your life growing up, or was he at least around a lot?
he'd be mincing a few chunks at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And like this is why I love my mom. Because I look back and when you're a kid, you don't realize what your mom's doing. Like when she's damn near a single mom.
For sure.
And there's 3 fucking kids.
Yeah.
You know? There are times when he'd be gone and my mom took care of the rent, took care of the food, still took us to church.
What was your dad doing when he was missing?
Who the fuck knows, bro? Whatever Gang Pes love to do. You know? I'm sure I've looked around where like he took tourist pictures and shit. I'd see like Times Square.
It's like wait,
Atlanta.
I was alive then.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
Like exactly. Yeah, it said like 94. Like, huh?
It's like wait, where were we? We were alive.
Yeah, and
Your dad just
just
he wasn't ready to be a parent.
he got married when he was 23. I asked him this actually. I said, Appa, you know, why'd you get married? I just asked him straight up, why'd you get married?
Yeah.
And he said, that's the only way I can get out of the gang. That's the only way they say it's okay for me to leave. If I got married, then they let me leave.
And then you met your mom.
And he met my mom. And he didn't leave.
Oh my God.
Because on the other half of the story, my mom was like, he would be missing at the tanggujang, which is billiards, you know, or any of that shit. And so he'd be gone all night. And the thing was, at the time, he bought my mom this Pontiac Firebird with the Phoenix on the hood.
Oh shit, yeah, that OG.
That was her car. And so she'd throw us in that car, go to K-Town, look around for his car, you know, and he had this 7 Series. And so she'd find the right tanggujang. And we were like 2 or 3 years old. She'd leave me and my brother at the door and bounce, knowing that my dad was there to force him to come home.
He has to come back. Oh, your mom is a fucking gangster, dude.
That's the thing too. Like, I forget that my mom got saved at 40 years old. She became a Christian at 40. Sometimes I forget that she's a samonim in this sajangnim business.
Yeah.
like sometimes.
Like, you want to fuck around? Here's your kids. Guess what? You got to come back home. Damn, your mom's a thug, dude.
Yeah. And which is why she's okay being out there still. She's fine with it.
Yeah.
She can handle it. She calls me sensitive. She always calls, you're too sensitive. That's why. So sensitive. Yeah. And she's like, okay, well, I mean, you're not wrong, but geez,
Dude, my mom's pretty like rough around the edges too. Like I remember when my very first girlfriend, she dumps me, right? And I'm like back home from college and I'm in the room and I'm telling my mom, I'm crying, right? I look at my mom and I go, well, she's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, I just got dumped for the first time, right? And I'm like, just don't tell dad, right? And I'm crying. And then she goes, she comes up to me, she puts her hand on my shoulder and she starts rubbing my back and she's just like, only bitches cry like this. She's like, Changpie. It's like, you're embarrassing. So it's just like basically what she says is like, it's like Kiji bitch with Ujiba, which is like little bitches, little bitches cry like this.
No, wait, Kijibem is like bitch. Like B-E-T-C-H.
Yeah.
Bitch. Don't be a bitch.
You know?
She called you a bitch.
Yeah. And then she just gets up and closes the door. And when she called me that, I just started crying more. I'm like, God! Because she's like calling me a pussy. You know, I'm like, yo, this woman is the most insensitive person on earth. And I literally told her, I was like, Oma, don't tell Appa. She goes, oh, don't worry. 5 seconds later, my dad comes in. So you got dumped? I'm like, you know, I told you, don't tell him anything. And my dad's just like trying to console me, but he's not even consoling me. He's just calling me a pussy. Yeah. You know?
So same story. My first girlfriend dumps me and I don't know what to do, but call my mom. And I'm like, I can't get your son. And then she was like, oh, and then she's talking me through here, talk to Appa. Like,
oh no. Like,
wait, what? Who of all the last person on earth for a second? I'd rather talk. I could talk to anybody. And he just goes, "Why you cry? Why?
Yeah.
Listen, don't be the stupid, be the happy, okay? I'm like, oh, that okay. I'm better now.
Hey, don't be the stupid, okay? Dude,
Be
that's
the
so
happy.
funny. That's like probably the moment that your dad was like, I'm gonna be a good father. Watch
He
this.
tried his best.
Tried his best. Hey, don't be a gay. You like a gay? Huh?
Yeah.
You gay, Seki? That's so fucking funny.
My dad actually called me out for that because I was wearing an Abercrombie shirt, Abercrombie
Oh
polo.
my God.
And at their sleeve was the first to be super short at the time, and yeah, he just called me like gay.
Good morning, gay boy.
Gay?
It was a gay. That's so fucking funny, man. Your dad is such a weird, like, colorful. So after you guys left to Seattle, right? Because you guys were in K-Town and then you guys left to Seattle.
Yeah.
Why did he go back? Why did he go to Seattle in the first place?
Well, maybe there's some legal things I probably shouldn't talk about, which is why at first. No, but we lost everything after the LA riots.
Oh.
Yeah. After the riots, we had a 공장 and we lost everything. Like just looted down to the bone, and we just lost everything. So we're starting over, and my mom's oldest brother lives in Federal Way, and that's where we lived for like a few months till we found our own place.
Yeah.
But pretty much that's how I ended up out there, like from LA all of a sudden to
the butt fuck middle of nowhere, dude.
Yeah. And yeah, it like my dad, just looking back, the way I run my store, I think my dad did the same way too. Even I remember I'd be in 7th, 8th grade stocking shit, and then I remember this guy's like, yeah, your dad, he's a good guy. Like
Oh, my dad?
all right. Yeah. And then I asked my mom, I was like, what's that about? And she's like, oh, the other day two guys were beating that guy up. And then, I play baseball. My dad stole my fucking bat, right? And he kept it behind the counter. Apparently he ran out there and beat the shit out of these guys with my bat, and saved this dude, And so my dad would go out and do that shit, at least for his friends and for his people.
Yeah.
Like, he's violent, but he's righteous.
That's every Korean person, you know what I mean? Like these like weird violent spurts. I look back to, and I understand why people think some of these stories are very far-fetched, because when you look at the prototype of a human being that gets into, fights and brawls and shit, it's not somebody who looks like me.
Yeah.
Like I'm a very sweet, like jovial looking guy. But you guys have to also realize, like, I wasn't born here. My first language was Korean. I looked the way that I did. People wanted to bully me, but I'm also very, very Korean. Like, anger and all this other shit was the first way to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Anger and violence. So it just kind of seeped into my every being. And I think that's why I got bullied a lot, was because of the way that I looked. And then the bullying stopped so much when I got older, because I would fight back so much.
Right.
Because it's a very Korean thing to do. Like, you can't just do that. Like you would just die on your shield first before you let somebody make you a bitch.
Right.
And so that's just kind of the mentality that I had. And it's stuff from an older generation. My dad's a super nice guy. Like, my dad would never get into confrontation, but he would always instill this in me, though. It's like, make sure that when you're bullied, that they remember never to bully you again.
Yeah. Like, you guys got to realize too, I'm not really telling gangster stories as much as I'm telling Korean behavioral stories.
Exactly. this is like that Han. It's that
it's
Han.
Han. It's the internalized, just like, you can't step over me. Don't you fucking dare step over me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You hate being capitalized. Meanwhile, it's also capitalizing on top of other people for your own protection sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I had to really think about this, because a lot of the bad business dealings and a lot of the bad projects that I've gone through was through with Korean people. And I think it's like, what is that? You know what I mean? And I had to sit there and think about it. I was like, why do these people all have a very similar trait? And it's like, they all have this scarcity mentality kind of
Yeah.
thing. You know, maybe it's leftover from the Korean War
Yeah.
or something like that. But they always had this thing of like, well, if I could fuck somebody over to make me better, I'm going to do it because it's about me.
Yeah, and also, who knows? We could lose all this. It's like, hey, it's not the Korean War anymore.
Yeah.
You're not in school. You don't have to shit in a hole anymore, Amma.
Yeah, you're good.
You're good. You know. But yeah, like that. Like, I'm not gonna say hoarding. It's almost like it could be.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, a lot of it is what we were talking about earlier. Why it clashes with a Christian culture as well.
Yeah.
When we're all Koreans and we're also Christians. That's why previously we were talking about like all the trauma that happens when religion and culture clash.
Dude, I remember you telling me the story about your dad just like hoarding all this shit and saying like, what's like this is for you?
Yeah.
What the fuck is he talking about?
That's where I was so like perplexed in his mindset about why he's doing all this kind of thing. Like, and it was always some gangster mentality. Like, I've told this to you. My dad went to prison when he was 21, fresh out of high school. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
on some burglary charges, and so he's not supposed to own a gun, but he kept a gun.
Of course.
You know, and that's what got him in trouble the second time later in his life when this is like fucking 20 years ago. I'm a junior in high school and I get a phone call, and it's the sheriff, like who's been working with the FBI, and they were staking out my dad.
What the fuck?
Because he was having some Walter White shit operation going on out there.
In Seattle?
Yeah, let's just say out there in the state.
Oh, wow. Wow.
What? And yeah, so that was one of those things. Like I'm 16 and
Oh, this is when you're older. Yeah,
I'm older.
yeah.
And now I'm seeing this happen. My dad is a gangpe, you know, straight up.
Like it's not just stories. Like this
It's
guy.
not just stories.
Yeah.
You know, and which is why when I said my dad can beat up your dad, I'm like, I fucking mean it.
My dad will literally kill your dad.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going through my senior year without him, which is why he didn't come to my graduation.
Yeah.
You know, all this shit, which was a lot of the things that I had to learn, especially even when he got out. Now he has a prison mentality, you know. Now he's a gangpe prisoner mentality, and it's
This was like sharpening your guys' toothbrushes and shit. It's like, Appa, you don't need to do this. Like, no, just in case.
yeah. And I mean, it hurt a lot inside the home dynamic too.
Especially for your mom, because your mom's like, who is this guy? Like, you know, probably I mean, obviously he's like kind of like devolving, right? Because it's probably already bad enough as it was. He was a gangpe in the beginning, and now he goes to prison. Now he has this prison mentality. It's like, oh, like what is happening?
Like I told you how, like I found out about my dad's twin brother. My mom found out after she gave birth to me.
Oh my God.
Which is 4 years after their marriage.
Yeah.
Like she said, on the day of my birth, it's my birthday, right? It was my dad's birthday too. I was born on my dad's birthday.
Oh shit.
And he goes, it's also my brother's birthday. You know? She's like, huh? She didn't know. And then he's like, I have this twin brother. He's in Korea. I've never met him.
Korean people do not know time and place very well at all. You know how
time and place.
let me tell you something about my parents, right? I remember this shit. So it's me and my older brother, right? And we're sitting at the dinner table. We're just having dinner, having a good time, just eating, right? And out of just nowhere, I shit you fucking not, true story. I'm just eating, having dinner, whatever. And then my dad goes, hey, you know what's interesting? You were supposed to die when you were born. And I stop. I look at him like, what do you mean? I was like, well, your mom wanted to abort you, you know, but I said no, which is why you're alive. So thank you to me. And he just starts laughing. And I'm sitting there, why would you say that to me, right? And it's like, well, your mom, you know, she aborted like 3 other kids before you. So you're supposed to have like 3 other brothers and sisters. And I'm sitting there just, What the fuck is going on? There's no segue to this conversation. Why did you say this to me?
I don't think Korean Americans understand. Koreans are perfectly okay with abortions.
Yeah.
Like, go to Korea. Like,
yeah.
They're perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm sitting here just like shocked. And she was like, yeah, you're supposed to have like 2 other. And my dad's laughing. He's cracking the fuck up. And I'm sitting here just mortified. Like, you're going to abort me?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Why would you say this? You know? My dad's dying laughing. And I look at my mom. I was like, oh, Ma, is that true? She goes, yeah, but your dad, he wanted to have another kid. What the fuck are you saying right now? You fucking jackasses?
Man, I think like one of the things, like when I went to Korea to see my by the way, my dad didn't meet him until they were 50 years old. Way later in their life. Yeah.
You know, your dad too. It's funny because I saw a shell of the human being your father is when he was at 52, which his dad looked like he was in his 80s.
Yeah. But
I saw the older picture of your dad. Your dad had a thick ass fucking neck, dude.
Yeah.
This motherfucker was yoked.
Your
dad was yoked, dude. Like, holy shit. It was literally cheek, then neck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, and even like genetically, this, what is this called? Trap?
Your trap?
Yeah. Just, I don't work this shit out and it's big because of my dad.
Yeah.
My sister has it too.
She's like, I hate this.
But yeah, he was a big guy, and he just, and on, like I said, on top of that, he was always older than everyone else because he came to America very early. Yeah. And so he was a chip on the shoulder kind of guy, but also like didn't have a whole lot of faith on me at all either, you know?
Yeah. Well, he had an idea of what a man was, which was a very trashy idea of what a man and a human being was, and you weren't living up to that expectation.
But at the same time, this is the weird dichotomy of the Han. What you were saying earlier, because I was so stupid, I couldn't make it out in Seattle, go to university or whatever. Yeah. So he started teaching me to run the store because I should stay here and run the store.
Yeah.
Like him.
Yeah. Fucking.
But meanwhile, calling me a 병신 and an idiot and stupid. But this.
병신, by the way, means retard.
Yeah. Straight
which was my mom's favorite word for me. You 병신 같은 새끼. I mean, you know what that translates to? You retarded bitch.
Yeah.
That's what my mom would call me growing up. Yeah.
And so
the idea that a parent could call their kid a retarded bitch is so hilarious.
Normal though, right? It's like, oh yeah, my mom called me that too.
Yeah. Like the Korean language, if you ever wanted to learn how to curse or get mad in a language, Korean language is the one to do it. My mom used to say this phrase to me. Like when she'd be upset at me and my brother. She would always say this phrase and it stuck with me. She goes, 이런 개똥대가리 같은 씨발놈들이. You know what that means? Is like, she literally called me a dog's dingleberry.
The shit that hangs off the fur.
Oh yeah, exactly. 개똥대가리 같은 씨발놈들. You fucking dog dingleberry fuck is what she would call me. She would get so mad.
It's just Korean is the best cursing language.
Yeah.
But yeah, like back to it. My dad, it always felt like he was disparaging me. His end game and end goal was to make me successful.
In the worst way possible.
Right. Which is why when like this garage is just full of all these tools and junk and shit and whatever, it's just like questioning, like, what is all this shit for? It's like, this is for you. Don't you know, this is like a handing this down, like, thanks, Mufasa.
Yeah. The pride lad. Yeah. And it's just a bunch of garbage.
Yeah, really. But it was like all he had.
Yeah.
This is all he got. He's left. And I'm looking back at it like this. His home was Korea. Like his favorite movie was Chingu. Watch that shit every year.
I love that fucking
because
movie.
for him it was like high school that he didn't get to have.
Yeah.
He had it in fucking America. But he played by those rules in America anyway.
When I watched Chingu, right? I remember I thought it was like the dopest movie ever, and I was like, "What if life was really like that?" And I remember my mom told me, she goes, "That's how it was in Korea." How it is, yeah. I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "That's not made up. That's how it was in Korea." Yeah. Like you had the older hyungs, and they would run shit like a fucking gang, and you would have the younger people running around doing your bidding, and there was gangpes inside the school, and they would take that shit outside. You know, some people ended up not doing it when they were older, but it just continued on. And even when they stopped doing it, you still see that type of relationship and behavior of the hyung and the hyungrooms type of stuff, even after they grew up and they stopped doing that shit. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Dude, I So when I went to Korea to see my uncle, and in Korea, like you grow up with the people you grew up.
Yeah,
like
from elementary school
class,
all the way up. Yeah.
all the way up. You're in the same classroom, right? So I'm visiting my uncle. We're having dinner, and he brings his friends, and I see them. They're holding hands. They're in their 50s, and they're holding hands by their pinkies and swinging their arms. That friendship shit is real. It's deep out there.
Yeah.
But even though they fuck shit up when they're
you're wearing
up.
a fucking polo and he calls you a faggot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's like, Papa, you're holding pinkies with that guy. This is not gay.
Yeah, it's like, was it gay? You call me gay?
Your dad is so they're so weird. It's hard to figure them out. Their life and their relationships with people were so complicated. It's hard to understand from our perspective.
Which is, like I've always wanted to tell my dad's story, and I know, there's a story in there where you and I still relate too.
Yeah.
To our fathers, even though we're way past a generation and tons of technology and all these things. Like we can't help but feel the way we feel, and it reminds us of how our dads react to.
Yeah.
And it's just every time I do something and I think about the time I was pissed at him when I was a kid for it, I'm like, all right.
like you understand it. That's why when we mentioned too about like asking your parents to understand you when you don't even know their story, it doesn't make any sense. Because nobody does things just because, is what I'm finding out. There's a reason for it. There's a reason why people do the things that they do and they behave the way that they behave. Like I understand why my dad was so particular about family stuff, right? And my mom told me to pity my father because she was like, you should feel bad for your dad. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, the hardest thing about your dad is the fact that your dad didn't get to grow up with a solid family. Right, he was kicked out in the street by his own sister and his own family. Your dad, your grandfather, his father went bankrupt and he had to fend for himself. He had to live in a motel room, because his best friend, parents owned a motel in Korea and they allowed him to live in the room.
Yeah.
So this is how he survived. So all he wanted was a really tight-knit family, but your dad is so socially fucking awkward. He doesn't know how to communicate with you guys. So everything that he wants to do, he's destroying. He wants to be close to you. He wants this single unit family where we live in the same house together, but he's so awkward. He doesn't know how to talk to you, converse with you, that he pushes you away. Yeah. So imagine how sad that is for your father. Everything that he's doing is to live this dream of a tight-knit family, but his behaviors say otherwise. Right. So it's destroying his personal dreams. She goes, you have to understand how sad your father. I feel bad for your dad. Like I feel terrible for him because he wants to have this relationship, but he doesn't know how. So, I empathize with my father a bit. Like he grew up not knowing that hardcore family love that he wanted to give to us, but because he didn't have that in his life, he doesn't know how to express it. So it caused friction between me and him,
Story of my dad's life. Not knowing exactly how to express himself without fucking shit up.
Yeah. They're like destroying everything that they're trying to create, and it sucks.
Yeah. Because all they know is a whole lot of self-destruction.
Yeah.
And I see my dad in that, and my mom had that talk with me too. You should pity him, like under what he's grown up in, and I understood that at least at a younger age, that I can't hate my dad. I cannot hate my dad. When I was like 15, it was like my mantra. I don't know why. It could have been the Christian aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I'd constantly tell myself, don't hate Appa, don't hate Appa, don't hate Appa. And I'd even have to sometimes tell Sora, don't hate Appa, don't hate Appa. And I don't even exactly know why, but I think it was just a Christian thing. But in the end, it gave me a lot of peace when he passed, because I didn't hold the resentment against him for being
like who he was,
who
what
he
was.
Did. Yeah, because he is. He just is. I can't say he's a bad father or a good father. He just is. He was my father. And that alone is enough for me to say I love him.
Yeah. I think that was like one of the things that maybe I think that your brother and your sister never came to terms with, right? Was that they saw your father, the exterior of your father, right? They saw all of his actions and they judge him for that. And I think the difference between you, because it's also a coping mechanism for you, is to understand he is who he is and he tried his best. So how can I knock him for trying his best? And we have to also look as we're adults now too. If I had the same situation, would I have ever turned out better? And I guarantee I wouldn't have. 100% I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I think that's the hard part too, is like, as kids, we kind of want certain things from our parents, right? And when we don't get it, especially in your case, when your father passed, you're trying to not have hate in your heart.
Yeah.
You want to, because how does that help you cope? How does that help you deal with the fact that your father passed and not having this relationship that you thought you wanted?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficult part of being an adult.
Yeah.
And accepting that reality, right? Because it's easy to hate somebody. That's the easy route.
It's so easy.
It's the very quick way to deal with it. Fuck you, out of my life. I don't want to think about it. But I think it's easier said than done when it comes to a family member like your dad.
And it was because of my faith at the time, where my dad, like I said, gangpei growing up. Guess what? He got saved when he was like 45.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because he just got out of prison, all this shit, and we put him through church and whatever. And he got saved.
They beat up the pastors.
Yeah, dude, my dad has written the Bible 5 times over.
Wow.
Like, he's reading it and he would write it. He really, really, like, I can see it's a religious aspect of it, but he was really trying to atone for the past 50 years of his life.
Yeah.
He was really trying to make things work. And for me, I wanted to let him know, like, that he is loved. He definitely didn't feel, I can tell he didn't.
It's probably because he felt he fucked up so much.
Yeah. And so we'd have phone calls and whatever. He's like, yeah, go to the Costco and pick this up, okay? And I'm like, okay, I love you, Appa. And I could hear him go, okay. I get choked up because I don't know why. I just thought I'd just tell him I love him.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw him too, same thing. After we got that big brawl at Tiggs, I went to go eat sundubu, and I was gonna leave. I was gonna head back here to LA. I gave him this hug, and he was a fucking skeleton.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, I love you. Same thing. And he goes,
yeah. Like, he doesn't know how to, he's like, is it gay? Are you gay?
Yeah, he's gay.
He starts crying. He goes, he's the other way gay. He's a gay.
But I got my piece, at least.
Yeah. Do you think that your other siblings got that too?
Over time, yes. Yeah.
It was just a little harder for them.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was because, like, I didn't go to university.
Yeah. You probably spent more time with them, right? Yeah.
After my dad went to prison my junior year, my mom sat me down and says, don't sign up for college.
Yeah.
Don't apply. You're staying at the store.
Jesus.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Especially if you're an Asian American growing up and all your friends are getting into the UW. UW was like the pit, outside of the Ivy Leagues, everyone went to UW. And my mom was like, don't even apply. You gotta run the store. And yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's all good.
My parents didn't think much about me, but I was stuck. The thing was, I was stuck at the store, and I was around him all the time.
Yeah.
And he was really mean.
Yeah.
After prison, he was really cruel.
Well, it was what he learned in prison.
Yeah. And he said a lot more hurtful things than ever before. He got way more like aggressive and wild. I remember once he had a mouth full of pop in his mouth. Just food, screaming at me, and pop is flying everywhere. That's how much he didn't give a shit, But I don't know. I always let him know I loved him.
I mean, I think that's like the missing piece that maybe your other siblings didn't have, is that you actually got to spend time with him, and you got to see him at his worst. But I can only imagine what your dad was going through, probably like emotional turmoil. Like obviously he went to jail for the whole Walter White situation, like that whole meth situation, right?
And he won't even tell me like exactly
what exactly he was doing. Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like, I don't personally know him, but I feel like at that point, you're at that age, your dad is doing stuff to make ends meet, you know, to make sure that he could provide this specific life for his kids. Because a lot of Asian parents too, one thing that I know that is a constant in a lot of these like immigrant Asian stories is that a way that Asian parents showed love was by showing how much they could provide. Right.
Yeah.
And imagine the type of stuff your father was going through, knowing that he was doing his best and he was probably making good money doing this stuff.
It.
And then he goes to jail, loses everything, comes back, and he's back at square one. And he's dealing with his own personal demons at this point. Yeah. So he's not even yelling at you. He's yelling at himself because he hates himself, you know?
Yeah. And I could tell that. I can tell he was really ashamed of what he had done.
Yeah.
Especially as we're older and we all saw him get sentenced. So, and in the end too, my dad, still ever the gangpe. You know, he tried to be like mature and sit us down. He's like, do you know, like if you have any questions, you can ask me, you know, ask me why, you know? So I asked him, okay, why did you do it?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he's like, because I wanted to buy you a car.
Wow.
You gangpe.
Yeah, you mother
gangpe, you know?
And the funny thing is like, he's trying to provide you things, the stuff that you didn't need. You know, it's like,
and that's
I didn't need that. I needed you to be my dad.
Yeah. As a freshman, or no, I was probably a sophomore in college, I was driving around in a 750 IL V12.
Wow.
And he put 20s on it. I didn't ask for any of that shit.
It's like, Edward, you want to be a rapper?
Yeah.
you want to be, you know, it's a ride on, it's a 20?
No, my dad drove the same car in the 80s.
That's hilarious.
So he got the same 1989 car that he used to have for $8,000.
That's the crazy thing too. It's like, I appreciate that about your dad though, that it's so funny that his self-destructive behavior was out of selflessness, which is insane. You know, that's what I'm saying. It's like, when we have these conversations about empathy and understanding other people, it really does help you put these puzzle pieces together, right? Because when you don't understand what's going on, it's very easy to get into anger. But when you have an understanding of the whole picture and you start piecing these stuff up, you can see the whole picture and it helps you understand what's going on. Yeah. It helps subside that anger a little bit. Because one could say, hey, well, fuck your dad. You know what I mean? He didn't give a fuck about you or your mom and the kids. He just wanted to do his shit and make money. But that wasn't the motive. If you never had that conversation with your dad, if your dad never said, hey, ask me what this was for. And he goes, I wanted to buy you a car. And you're like, what the fuck?
And look at him. So matter of fact about it. Yeah. Straight up. And he told the truth like it, you know, he
wasn't a liar.
Yeah. And he said it like it was. So, and that's why at this point, like, imagine if he just lied to me and I'm sitting here wondering why he did all this shit in my life and based off what he told me.
Because I had a few of those moments with my dad where I remember he brought up like, he basically told me, he was kind of upset that I didn't do well in school. It's like stuff that he had resentment towards me, right? He goes, I gave you everything to be really smart in school, then education and everything else. He goes, do you remember in high school when I told you that if you just got straight A's, I'd buy you a BMW? And I remember I looked at him, right? This was like 5-6 years back. I looked at him, I was like, who the fuck said I wanted a BMW?
Yeah.
You never even asked me what I wanted. I didn't want any of that stuff, right? He goes, you could have had a nice car. That's all he was thinking. It's like, young kids want nice cars, so I'm going to do this for my kid. But he never had a conversation and asked me what I wanted. Yeah. And he was like, and I told him, I was like, you know what I wanted from you? I just wanted you to support me. I don't give a fuck about all this other stuff. When teachers were telling me I wasn't either smart enough, that they were telling me that I was problematic, I wanted you to be on my side, but you never did that for me. You just kept on saying, oh, I'll buy you a car, I'll do, fuck all that shit. I wanted you to support me. I wanted you to tell me that I could do stuff outside of the store, but you never did that for me. You kept on providing something that I didn't need. Yeah. You know, and it was almost like he was a robot. He was like short-circuiting. He goes, I did the best I could. I did the best I could, which was only his thing he could say. Yeah. I did the best. I did the best. But it's hard because I think as an adult, and it would be hard for me too as a parent, for my kid to tell me I fucked up. Like, oh shit, and I can't take this stuff back.
Look, you don't understand. In 1989, you gotta go back there.
BMW 최고. BMW는 그거는 이거야 여기. You know. Yeah. You know. So. I'm glad I had these moments. And I, you know, even now too, I know specific Korean people who haven't had these conversations with their parents, and their relationship with their parents is very sad for me to watch, because they don't understand who their parents are, because they're still angry at them like they're that 5-year-old kid. They're not coming at it from an adult's perspective. And so when I see them still fight with their 50, 60-year-old parents about bullshit. And I'm like, you still don't get it.
They're not going to change.
Yeah. They're not going to change. It's been 60 years. The only thing that you can do now is talk to them and try to understand where they're coming from, because you're just going to lose your fucking mind. There's no point. They don't have a willingness to change because they don't have a problem with how they live. They did 60 years of it. Why the fuck would they change now in their last 20, 30 years of their life?
Right.
You know, it's hard.
Which is why to this day, I have to keep telling my mom I'm doing Bible study.
Watch, she sees this. You know, Sheba.
Yeah. You know, but yeah, like even just looking back just about how they fucking tried. Not to say my dad was a total piece of shit. He quit drinking for a long time, you know. That's about it. I'm just kidding. No, for real. But no, we were fucking in abject poverty after the riots, though.
Yeah.
Like I skipped ahead and I said we moved to Washington, but we were actually in Flint, Michigan for 2 years.
Yeesh.
Yeah. And they bought a 2-story, 3-bedroom house for $10,000 because nobody wanted to live in that neighborhood.
You can still do it now.
Yeah. And people still don't want to live in Flint.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I lived there, and that's where I got this scar. My brother has his scar here on his lip. And, you know, the reason why we moved out of there, because it was rough.
Yeah.
And shit. But, yeah, like, we lived in such poverty that they shut the water off and the power. And there was a good while where for a month we all had to piss outside and really hold our poop until we got to school to poop
That's fucking nuts, dude. That's crazy.
Because the toilets didn't work.
Yeah.
And so my dad's friends would come and donate big jugs of water to us so we can flush the toilets as long as you can dump it in the tank.
It'll go down. Yeah.
Guess how we took showers, man.
Yeah. Well, but I remember too, like when we couldn't like fix our water heater and shit, and then my mom would have to like boil water and then like stick it in the tub and just to heat it up. And those things were so normal to us because we didn't know any better.
Right.
I can't even share some of these stories with other people. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like to them, they're like, "Wow, you lived in some shit." But when I was a kid, if you don't know anything else, it's just life. It's like, oh, that's just life.
This is like 93.
Yeah.
You know, 30-cent tacos, Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Sometimes I always wonder why I'm so short. And I think it was maybe
nutrition-based.
Nutrition-based, honestly. Maybe my brother was telling me I think it's nutrition-based.
Can your mom cook?
No.
See, that's probably a problem too.
No.
Because my mom could cook. You know, my mom could make nothing into something, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like... one thing that I know that for my life anyways growing up is that we always had good food. I mean, it wasn't like new food every day, but you know, my mom would make a big batch of soup or whatever.
Yeah.
And then this was the food that you would eat. So it was like, you know, kimchi jjigae for 1 week.
I had the Taco Bell McDonald's experience because it's so cheap, those hamburgers and
I
tacos.
wanted that shit though. Because they would never buy it for me. Because they're like, you have cheapest of umshik in the way. We pocket the you know?
But that's the hilarious thing about why I look at poverty today and like why people who are in poverty are obese. Because it's actually cheaper to eat that shit.
Cheap food is the worst for you.
Yeah.
You know? Best example. I hated beef growing up my whole life. I hated eating beef. I didn't like the taste of it. I didn't like any of that shit. Well, until I had like a medium rare steak.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, these are different.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? I don't have to eat this shit
well done beef.
Yeah, you know, a lot of Asian people eat well done beef. And so I remember, and I hated McDonald's too. I hated eating McDonald's. But then when you're in college, you're broke as shit. You don't have a lot of money, right? And then you would have these 25 cents cheeseburgers and shit like this, 20 cents, 30 cents cheeseburgers. And that's when I started liking McDonald's.
But that's because it's all you've had.
That's all I had, you know?
It's all you had. And then you just get addicted to it. So,
And I gained 40 fucking pounds, you know? And I became addicted to this food. But that's why when I see people... they're like, oh, why don't they just buy healthier options? Like, you know how fucking expensive organic food is, you bitch?
Yeah.
It's hella expensive. There's a reason why people buy canned foods and frozen foods is because it's easier to deal with. It doesn't spoil and you can feed a lot more kids that way.
And I could see it. So like, I'm 34 now. My dad was 34. He had all 3 kids.
Yeah.
They were in Flint, Michigan.
That's crazy.
And I gotta imagine just like, that would suck. That would fucking suck. But they did it, man.
Somehow.
They fucking survived it.
I don't know how.
Yeah. And up to the point where we got to lower middle class, you know? And that's why I still don't try to take anything away from my dad, but I also know he probably didn't feel like it was enough for him either. You know, because of what he quote unquote used to have.
Of course.
KK and all that shit.
He 100% sounds like somebody who was comparing his old self to his new self. You know, you see him, he probably sees himself getting physically weaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while I'm getting bigger in high school, we're fucking around. He wants to arm wrestle and I beat him. After that, he made me do so much fucking physical labor. Like, just made me carry heavy shit all the time. And sometimes it'd be for no reason. And then at one point, and like, I was just like, is he jealous? And even my mom pointed out, like, even with my camera gear, he gets jealous. So I was like, this gangpe. Father, like,
this fucking gangster motherfucker can't move past this shit.
Yeah. So that was the dynamic I was growing under. So it's like support for anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he really gave a shit if I had A's at all.
Yeah.
At all.
It's like, oh, you think you're smarter than me now?
Because he didn't finish hye school.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so funny. It's like he wants you to do better, but he hates you too at the same time. So you got an A? That's good. Go die. It's like, oh, think you're better than Appa?
It was right at one point in high school, my parents didn't even look at my grades anymore. Where I was like,
man,
am I getting away with this?
Dude, you're so lucky. My parents would look at my grades knowing the terrible outcome. It's like, you know what's going to, you know.
Looking at my brothers and sisters.
Oh, really?
They gave up on me.
That's hilarious. I wish my parents would have gave up on me, dude. Because my dad was like, where's your report card? I'm like, Appa, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what's on this report card. You know it's not a good thing.
That's what I mean. So they were just like grooming me to just take over the store. It's just my dad's like, someday this is yours.
This
what
is all you. Your dad's so crazy, dude.
Store. But it was all, but look, think about everything he'd lost and everything he built. I mean, to me, it doesn't mean shit, but it is
from
all
where he came,
had.
you know, Flint, Michigan, and going through the riots and having this and being able to like support a family. It's pretty good.
That's all he had, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I don't take anything away from my dad because he worked his ass off. And I see myself when I feel lazy or depressed or whatever. Like, my dad had those days too. But what I mostly know him for is working fucking 16 plus hours a day.
Yeah.
Every fucking day.
That's the thing too, when I look at it and I'm like, there's a reason why, like, I worked so hard in the beginning, you know, and I'm still working. Well, I'm not working as hard as I used to.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. Like, I got tapped out a lot. But I appreciate what my parents did, but I also don't want to live the life that they did.
Yes.
Working till I'm like 60 or 70 years old.
Right.
You know, but I also had this conversation recently too, where I'm actually very glad I grew up really poor, because it gives me a different perspective and lens on life, and it allows me to thirst for more because there was so much I didn't have. Right. You know, so these experiences that I got to experience as an adult isn't stuff that I got to experience when I was a kid, because we didn't have the means for it. But that's why I appreciate travel so much. So I appreciate these things. And so sometimes I see a lot with these kids who were born in wealth. They're the most boring fuckers I ever met in my life. God. They need so much stimulus because they had everything. Everything was handed to them on this fucking silver spoon. Yeah. So the way they view life and how they need to get stimulus it has to be through extravagant shit, which is not stuff that I really need. You know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of downsides about growing up poor for me, for sure. But I definitely see it in a lot of the, you know, once again, going back to the suburban church group when you're seeing around, and where they're trying to relate with me about the like the stuff that's happening to me at the store, where all the racist shit that I talked about in the past. And one guy's like, dude, someone at work said you eat kimchi, and I was like, yo, what the fuck? And
shut like, the fuck up.
That's it? You do eat kimchi?
Yeah. It's like, isn't that a fact?
Yeah. And so I'm thankful for, like, at least I'm a bit more aware of where I can focus my attention and my feelings. Yeah. You know, through seeing the worst and experiencing maximum pain, you know, early on or so many times, you know, it does give you thick skin. Not the kind of thick skin where you're just like unable to empathize. Yeah. But just really be like, hey man, like, it's not that bad. You'll be okay. You know, especially with younger kids today, like saying you eat kimchi is pretty racist to them.
Yeah, like they're I don't want to call them soft. It's just a different generation from what we had to grow up with, right? So with them, it's just that's why I always get very particular about people who always want to call everything racist. And sometimes when you do that, it's going to sound like you're just being a little bitch, and people aren't going to care about real problems and real issues.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, fuck it. If anything that I say makes you mad, then I'm just going to say whatever the fuck I want. And it gets to that point for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like when, I see a lot of these, what's it called? TikTok videos talking about their form of racism. And it's like, that's not even that person being racist. They just don't know any better. They're just curious, They're like, oh, I went to the store and this person was like, hey, like, where'd you get that clothes? Like, I want to know where it's from because like it's, it looks very, culturally like you.
You can't wear it.
Yeah. Like, and they're like, why did they have to ask about my culture clothes? My culture is not a prop. It's like, he's just asking where you got your clothes, bro. How is he supposed to know if he doesn't ask?
Yeah.
It's not like he walked up to you and was like, hello, where you get your clothes from? Like they're like, that's a underside. That's like slight racism. I was like, that's not even racist.
Because they keep saying, you know what? It's not enough to not know anymore. They should know by this time or whatever. It's not how it works.
Yeah, some people just don't know.
Like, imagine you're blind, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yo, check out my shirt. You like it? What are you going to say? You can't see it.
Yeah.
No, I don't see it, man.
Yeah.
Yo, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why can't you see my shirt?
Yeah.
Like, is anger the right response towards someone who can't see? Or am I going to be like, dude, look at the lines here and this design.
Yeah.
And look at these colors, and you're going to have to explain it to them.
Yeah, and I agree too. Like, racism isn't just something that's always just black and white, and there are different shades of it. But you have to be smart enough to understand when sometimes it's just curiosity and ignorance. You have to have that wherewithal, because if not, you're just going to be angry all the time.
Yeah.
And you're going to make these people grow distance from you, further and further away, and they're just never going to know what to say around you. And I don't like that because it doesn't allow for free-flowing conversation. Like I talked about this example where I was at a post office waiting in line and somebody asked me, I was like, hey man, what's the best Asian food in the area? And I found that really hilarious. And the funny thing is I knew. Like, I know, like you fucking asked the right person. Like, I know, but in my mind I'm like wait, racist that you would ask me, but why the fuck would he ask the white dude here?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that makes sense.
Yeah, like we can't hold them like up to some fucking standard that they have no clue like where even the starting line starts.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, how could you not, like when you're watching I don't know, let's say jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
How could this black belt not know or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey man, he knows, okay?
Yeah.
just they need time to learn this shit because they're at blue belt or some shit.
Yeah.
They're not gonna know at this 8th degree black belt level shit.
Yeah. It's just easy to be angry. But hey guys, that wraps up this episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. I hope you enjoyed. This is the new angle, I guess.
Yay.
I actually like this. It shows like more of the room and stuff. But
got the artwork all the way across.
Yeah, so it looks great. But you can follow Ed at EdParkVP on Instagram, and you can catch Genius Brain every Thursday and Sundays. Hope that made you think. Hope that made you empathize and think about your relationship with your parents. And I hope your parents isn't a fucking gangpe.
Hey, love them anyway.
Love them anyways. We'll see y'all next time.
Don't hate your parents. Peace.